It's the Smart Driving Cars podcast. You have found us again. We appreciate you spending time with us. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alan Kornhauser. Hi, Alan.
Hey, good afternoon, Fred.
We hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving and is gearing up for the holiday season. Alan, you spent some time in Florence, Italy, and via Zoom, you've returned with our guest today from the University of Florence, Professor and researcher Adriano Alessandrini.
Elizabeth and Helen and I had a wonderful trip to Florence, thanks to Adriano. And we had a wonderful session discussing what he's doing. And it was wonderful to be spend Thanksgiving in Florence. Very nice.
It's always a pleasure to have the occasion to talk to you about project ideas and especially about deployments, because there's a lot of talk about things that might be done, but actually a little bit less about things that are actually being done. And this is something we have in common. We like to do things, not just talk about them. And yes, Florence is always a very great place to be, especially because of its medieval and Renaissance art and everything, but also because of our demonstrations. Right?
Well, you have a mobility solution there that you've worked on, TUSS, pronounced TUSS. Give us the overview, what this is all about.
Basically, the idea is to combine car sharing with carpooling or ride sharing. So it means that especially for last mile, going toward and from train or tramway stations, most people travel together. So if they book in advance a ride, they can find a vehicle that can carry several people at the same time. One of the passengers is chosen as a driver, and they drive together to their destinations. Then, before leaving the vehicle, if there is another person, another passenger going backwards, this passenger is collected, and then there is an exchange of driving responsibility. And so the vehicle never stops. It goes back to the train station and it continues to go all round and round. And in case the vehicle is left parked somewhere because there is nobody to reposition the vehicle, there is an operator that can reach the vehicle with an electric bike or with some other foldable light mobility system to take the vehicle and repositioning where it is needed. Would it work better with automation? Yes, of course. Repositioning empty vehicles with full automation would be a plus, but it's actually not necessary. So having unnecessary expensive technology at present is less important than having a working principle, which is let's share vehicles, because this is the only way to actually fight congestion and to have a smart and efficient mobility for last mile and not only.
And of course, the important piece of that is the affordability that comes from out of ride sharing, which should not be forgotten. The affordability in terms of the cost of goods sold associated with putting the service out there. Yes, it's nice to be affordable if you have some, as I like to say, as I say to my students, if you have some sugar daddy out there giving you the money to do whatever you want. But unfortunately, that's somewhat of false hopes associated with that. The way to do this is to make it affordable at the cost of delivery side, not at the necessarily at the price side. And I think, Adriano, what's nice about what you're doing is you're really focused on that aspect so that, in fact, you can be out there and you can do it sustainably and spend your time operating the system as opposed to going around begging for money.
Our rides are quite cheap because the full ride costs less than $1 per ride. So this is something very inexpensive. If you consider that a public transport ticket in Florence cost €1.70, so nearly $2. So we give it our ride to half the price of a public transport ticket. And then the other very important thing that Alain said is that we actually manage to be self-sufficient. We don't need public subsidies to operate. So we work, of course, together with a number of private players, like, for example, companies that need to bring their manpower at work in the morning, or the university that needs to move students, etc. But most of all, we don't ask for public money to subvention to help us just doing the operation, as it is the case for any public transport service.
And that's at least one of the many things that I really appreciate about what you're doing, and what we spent a long time discussing and have in the past, is the opportunity to do this without public subsidy. Because if one looks at the publicly subsidized systems around, guess what? They end up being short-term demonstrations, and then all of a sudden it might be a report on a shelf, and that's the best thing that you got out of it, as opposed to having a sustainable solution to providing mobility to people who really need a ride.
How many
And actually,
vehicles do you have now, Adriano, and what are the plans that you have for growing this idea?
well, at present, we made several successful demonstration as University of Florence. Then the University of Florence thought this was mature enough and successful enough to create a spin-off company. So basically, we have started operations providing mobility for students and staff at the university, but as a private company, as an offspring of the university. Then we were about to enlarge our operation to a broader part of the metropolitan city of Florence, outside the municipality of Florence, with different vehicles. I mean, we started with these vehicles that you can see in the picture on my back. But I mean, these are electric, inexpensive, very slow vehicles, which are very effective for short rides inside the city. They are much less effective if you have to go on motorway stretches. So we are doing this with other vehicles, including cooperations with very large companies in the metropolitan area who needs to carry every morning their employees at work and back in the afternoon. And we mix this with the use by the residents. And this is actually promising to be expanded to the entire metropolitan city of Florence before the end of next year. So if that would be the case, we're talking about a fleet of at least 10,000 vehicles. So not a minor thing. We're talking about doing this stuff for real. Now, of course, we're starting small. We have at present 11 vehicles operating. We are about to add another 10, but the point is that the growth will become exponential as soon as there will be other places in which we can expand our services.
But Adriano, I wouldn't use it as an excuse that you're starting small. Has anybody ever started big? I mean, not even Apple, not even Hewlett Packard, not even IBM, not even I don't know, not even NVIDIA. NVIDIA didn't start big.
No, but I mean, for example, if you take the foray of Waymo into the automation world, they started with the idea of going full automated since the beginning, and they invested millions and millions of euros to make wonderful products. But to me, the point is, do you really need automation when you have a person who is capable of driving on board? Where you actually need automation is when you have nobody capable of driving, or when you have to reposition empty vehicles. In that case, I agree, automation is essential. But as long as you have people who are able to drive, let them drive. I mean, in the European and Italian legal framework, this is also a protection, because the problem is that we don't have the same freedom that you have in United States, or that exists in China. The main problem for us is that you need to have a person who needs to be held criminally responsible. If it's not the driver, then it's the CEO of the company. So if a company comes to Italy and puts 10,000 vehicles on the street, automated vehicles on the street, these 10,000 vehicles make, I don't know, 10,000 kilometers per year each. So this means that you will get easily 10 million vehicles, and 10 million vehicles will sooner or later, vehicle kilometers will sooner or later kill a person. And this means that the CEO will go to jail. And
whoops, we don't want that. Okay, I mean, we're not going to jail, Adriano. Yeah, yes, that's understood. And in some sense, one needs to be have protection on that. My goodness, how did the airline industry ever get started? I'm sure they never killed anybody on the way from Kitty Hawk to Newark Airport. My goodness, and so. Hey, there are risks associated with mobility. There are risks associated with anything anybody does. And yes, and the value of the mobility has to be such that it overwhelms the risk. And that's why we go. That's why I visited you in Florence, because the value to me of coming to you was absolutely worth any risk that I was going to incur in getting there. But there were some risks, and that's just fine with me. I was happy to take it, Adriano.
The problem, Alain, is always the numbers. Okay, if I individually travel on my cars, the risk of killing a pedestrian is extremely small, because actually drivers do drive well. Okay, so there is a very, very small risk. But when you put all together all the vehicles circulating in a nation for a year, well, in Italy, we end up killing about 300 pedestrians a year. This means killing one a day. And this is something that happens. And the problem is that automation, though wonderfully made, cannot solve them all. While if you still keep drivers on board, and you just reduce the automated part to nothing, or to the one which are absolutely necessary, that you can do low speed, then you resolve all the problems, even the liability problem, the insurance problem, everything. So that's why we decided to go forward this way.
Well, I really like that you have gone forward that way. And of course, I absolutely agree with you. The only reason that you need automation is for the empty vehicle repositioning problem, to address that one. If we had symmetric demand, then the problem would be easy. I mean, transportation would be easy if the demand was constant throughout the day and that the demand was symmetric. If it's symmetric, then geez, I mean, we would have been in happy land nirvana for a very long time. It would be easy. What makes it challenging is the peaks in the demand, which that's where you need to have the ride sharing. Otherwise, you have to have vehicles to meet the peak. Okay, and then during the valleys, they're sitting around. All right, how do you then reduce the number in the peak? You share in the peak. If I use the elevator analogy all the time. Heck, if you weren't willing to share elevators in a tall building, there wouldn't be tall buildings, because you would need elevators throughout the first floor to have enough of them to take everybody by themselves. But in the morning, man, when people come to work and they crush in. In the evening, when they're going out of work, they crush going down. During the day, hey, you get to go ride the elevator by yourself. Okay, that's just a fact of life, and in a sense, the riding public knows that. People who are in public transit know that in the morning, in one direction, there's all kinds of, you can't get a seat. In the other direction, you lounge out and have a snooze. You have so much room, right?
I was going to say, our viewers and listeners also know from hearing you and reading your book, there's also the the economic aspect of this, having to pay a driver, which I don't think, Adriano, you don't have to deal with that, right? The way you're set up.
We
Right.
don't pay the driver because one of the passengers also is chosen to be a driver. When we register our customers, if they decide to register as drivers, they have some advantages. For example, when they reserve, if they reserve in time, and if they are drivers, they have guaranteed the service. So it's not like you call a taxi and the taxi is not there, okay? You have the service guaranteed. It's our problem to find a way to bring you a vehicle when you need it. But I mean, you will be guaranteed that there is a vehicle there if you are registered as a driver. On the contrary, if you're registered as a passenger, then you only have the service in case there is at least another passenger going in the same direction at the same time that is registered as a driver. So, I mean, these are but the other thing I wanted to say to complement what Alain was saying, we basically designed our service to be mostly a last mile service and to be able to serve demand which is not evenly balanced, but which has at least one passenger every 8 that goes in the opposite direction. In fact, we use 8 passenger vehicles, and in the peak time, we put 8 passengers in one direction, but we still have the one passenger that can carry the vehicle back. And actually, our initial results, which come from serving, overall, we have served less than 10,000 trips so far. But I mean, our average occupancy for the vehicles is 3.4 passenger per vehicle. Actually, 3.4 is quite a big number.
It is a very big number. It is a very big number. Go ahead, go.
Probably, I mean, people who are not too familiar with this, they don't have the magnitude, but normally our vehicles circulate with 1.2 passenger per vehicle, okay? And they get stuck all the rest of the day. So having 3.4, it means that we actually substituting 3 vehicles for every ride that we make, and we make several rides during the day. So this means that we are being pretty effective, and we have not solved, but I mean, we have helped solving the problem of repositioning empty vehicles by making small detours to get the driver of the next ride on board before the end of the previous ride. And this actually helps never stopping the vehicle, okay? So we accept a minor deviation from the direct ride, but we're still able to keep the vehicle moving, which is what we actually do need to get the real figures, to never needing repositioning vehicles. Of course, never doesn't exist. At off-peak time, it happens that we need to reposition vehicles. But that's the reason why we need an operator. By the way, the operator is the same guy that also clean the vehicles and recharge them and do a number of stuff for which in any case you do need an operator, even for an automated vehicle, okay? So in our case, the fact that our vehicles are not automated don't change anything in terms of quality of service or in terms of the flexibility of the service. And we are able to do it with much cheaper vehicles. We are able to do it much better. Of course, you need to have some place to serve that concentrate demand. So in our cases, it's the lectures for the students start and ends all at the same time. So it's easy. There is a timing that already concentrates demand. Or it's a train station. The train station actually has the train that arrives at a given hour. And therefore, you have many passengers getting out or in the same train. So they can share vehicles. And this is what actually helped us to bring our average occupancy rate to that level.
Well, that's what I really appreciate about your approach. It's not that you're going to have to serve anybody and everybody and so on. You've here at the beginning of all of this focused on where you can do it and focus on where the demand is such that You can operate this service, and why not operate the service in the places where you can't? Places where you can't, where the demand doesn't match up, where it isn't concentrated. Well, leave that to somebody else. Again, this is the beginning of all of this, and at the beginning, this is what you do, and essentially, nobody serves everybody. There's never a solution for everybody. The idea of this is to find the places where it is a solution, concentrate on that, and be a happy camper going into the future, right? To me, it's the beautiful way to approach this. And to me, it's exceedingly elegant in terms of the way you're doing it with the focus, with the right focus, the focus that have it be high quality for that market, would be affordable because of the way you're doing it. And of course, as you point out, just because one might be driverless and doing the same thing, you still need people. It's not that nobody's going to work for the entity. It's not that the labor cost is actually going to go all the way to zero. There's still some people, but the productivity of that labor just gets multiplied. And I'd like to go back and discuss your 3.4, 3.5 average vehicle occupancy number and how huge that is. One of my pet peeves these days, or for a while they've been, is that all of a sudden, what driverless, and talking about driverless is, oh my goodness, there are vehicles going around there that don't have anybody in it. Oh, how inefficient it is. If you look at, I think if you actually look and do the count of cars as they operate in Florence or in Princeton or in Albuquerque, New Mexico, or in anywhere in the country, I guess including New York, I don't think that the average vehicle occupancy in New Jersey right now at 12:52 p.m. on the 2nd of December is greater than 1. I think it's less than 0. No, not less than 0, less than 1, not less than 0. Excuse me, that was a real misspeak. Because some people took somebody someplace, and now they're taking the car back home or back to someplace. In other words, they're just empty vehicle repositioning that car to someplace else. Earlier today in Princeton, when people were taking their children to school because it was raining, I mean, because who wants to take the school bus? I mean, talk about that. Never mind, I won't say that. They take them to school, and then they come back home. Average vehicle occupancy for those 2 trips is 0.5. 0.5. 1, 0. The person's a computers, is a whatever, is not getting any useful mobility function. They might be providing the transportation because you didn't have to park the vehicle over here and you could park it over here. And you didn't have to pay for parking here where you don't have to pay for parking here. So maybe, that's value proposition. And if you take that over what exists, and the few people that are really 2 people in a car going from A to B and really want to go from A to B at time T, and 3 people, it almost never happens, unless, of course, I'm dragging Elizabeth and Helen with me, but they don't count because they're baggage. I mean, whoops, I didn't say that either. But I made the decision on the travel. They're coming for my behest, not their own behest. And so, therefore, the average vehicle occupancy when I'm dragging them along is 1. 1, not 3. So we've got to be careful how we count this, okay? Because all of a sudden, if we have a mobility solution that allows us to not have to empty reposition the car to park it or not have to do that, then these are the numbers those are the numbers we should be comparing. And so, oh my goodness, just because you see, some vehicles with nobody in it, or in Adriano's case, the poor guy who had to take a scooter out there to go get the vehicle and empty reposition it, you'll see a guy in there, you might count it as one. Well, you count it, but really that should be a zero, okay? Because
It
he's
is,
just
right.
doing the empty vehicle repair. He's not getting the value proposition to him or her for the mobility. Mobility is supposed to give you time, acquire for you time, place, utility. Because you want to be someplace else at a certain time, because you'll be a happier camper. That's the only reason people travel. The only reason I went to Florence is I knew I was going to be a happier camper, you know, being with Adriano than, being stuck here in Princeton.
We had a nice steak
That's a fact
definitely
of
there
life.
in the steakhouse in Florence, and this is worthwhile the trip. But beside this,
Yeah,
I was
absolutely.
actually I have a comment about this fact of having too few people on the vehicle. Today, something amusing happened that if you are registered as a driver, so if you put your license on, when you make the reservation, you automatically go to the driver checkbox, okay? But then some of the guys using our service just unclick it unwisely, okay? So 11 people today reserved to at the same time, but only one checked the box to be a driver, okay? So basically the system said, okay, I can take 8 because I have a driver. So the driver
Mhm.
plus 7, but I need to refuse the other 3. And so the other 3 guys actually decided to join the party and to hang themselves outside the vehicle. So I had to stop them and explain to the driver that this is an unlawful behavior and that I would have to report them to the police and have his license removed. But I mean, it was quite funny to see this small vehicle with 2 people hanging outside
Are
trying
these
to
are
get
these
in.
the way these the way your students behave? Are these your students behaving in this way? Oh, well, my students don't behave that way. Well, I don't know. Actually, probably worse.
I have mostly Italian students. Probably that's in our DNA. I don't know, but I mean, we are inventive. We find solutions. So if there is an 8-place vehicle already full with people, you just hang outside.
Why not? I think, at the Morgantown PRT system at West Virginia, I think every year all the students go in there and see how many students they can stuff into a vehicle, whatever. I mean, students, I guess we must bore them in our lecture and their lectures, and they're looking for some excitement outside or something like that.
The ride sharing numbers are really amazing. From what I
Yeah,
understand,
yeah.
Waymo, which has had a very good year, is not doing that at all, at least not yet, really.
If you don't
Yeah,
do
they're
ride
they're
sharing,
doing something else.
Right.
if you don't do ride sharing, the main problem is that, I mean, it's like providing a taxi service with, I mean, empty vehicle repositioning. So this is not really beneficial for the city. So, I mean, we can really move a lot of people because we charge a very small amount. We can charge this very small amount thanks to ride sharing. If we didn't put a lot of people in the same vehicle, we wouldn't be able to actually have to charge that small amount. Plus, the other point is if you have many people in the same vehicle, you have one vehicle instead of several others moving. And this means that you're actually being beneficial in terms of traffic, in terms of noise emissions, in terms of safety, in terms of many things. So this is for me a very sustainable solution, something that should be encouraged. And what I really want to point out is that this is financially self-sustainable.
Well, that's amazing. Congratulations
Yeah, well,
on what you're doing.
it's the same approach that we're trying in Trenton and Mercer County, and our opportunities are to ride share are not as great, but ride sharing is really important, and where we're finding where the opportunities for ride sharing really exist are taking kids to and from school. And you might say, well, gee, don't they have a school bus? Well, it turns out in Trenton they don't unless you, I don't know, live more than 2.5 miles away from the school. And so there's some real opportunities, but again, because of those opportunities, it's really valuable. Plus, we're not trying to load up a whole who knows what 40-foot school bus of kids. We're trying to do really two, three, four is what we're targeting as appropriate. If it turns out that it's greater and we can take them in greater groups, because certainly in the affordable housing areas, kids go to school. They're not close to the schools. So taking the kids to and from school is really an important component of the whole darn thing. And of course, we think that the societal value associated with getting a kid to school as opposed to staying home is just enormous. So that's what motivates us.
We'll be reporting more on the progress with the Handy Rides venture going forward. So.
Yeah, so Adriano, I must, compliment you. You've been the whole time that I've known you doing as opposed to talking, and I really compliment you for doing that, because it's quite different trying to do than to just talk about it. Me, I'm just finally putting my toe and actually doing something as opposed to sitting around pontificating until the end, till the cows come home, whatever. But it is really satisfying to me to at least be trying to do it, and of course, complimenting the others who are trying to do it. I compliment Waymo for out there trying to do it, and they have their own. While they have more money than God, they have other people that they have to answer to, and so on. So it's not necessarily easy for them, just because they have the money. Although it'd be nice if we had some money, but hey, who needs money, man? When you actually, the opportunity to do it affordably is just sitting there for us to do, and so it really doesn't take much money.
Actually, of course, we as any other startup need money to start, because you need money
Yeah,
for publicity,
yeah,
you need money for making a better app, you need money for many things. But the
yeah,
important thing is that our business model is not even capital intensive. This is what we discussed last time. I mean, when you start a sharing service, you normally have to buy or rent several vehicles. Instead, we operate vehicles which are provided by companies that have a mobility problem. So we are using these vehicles that are vehicles provided by the university. We are using other vehicles which are provided by a company that needs to actually provide a service to their employees. We use other vehicles. So this actually makes our fleet capable of growing much, much more easily, because we don't need to invest ourselves for every single vehicle we put into operation. We will put, of course, vehicles ourselves, but the point is we don't have to immobilize capital in buying or in providing guarantees to loan vehicles. Okay, so this is probably the best innovation. Not only we do it affordably, not only we do it in a financially self-sufficient way, we're not even very much capital intensive. So we can really scale up soon and fast. And this is something that I think it's unprecedented in this world, because we have to take into account that doing shared transport in the outskirts of a city is probably the most complex things ever made. Public transport doesn't ride effectively there. Sharing doesn't work very well there. And we have proven we can. So this is something that is potentially revolutionary. And of course, if then automation will become cheap, cheaper than actually having the guy on the bike reaching the vehicle, we will, of course, feature some automation, but very, very small amount of automation, which is the bare minimum to actually improve our productivity, not something to just show how nice it is to go around in an automated. And actually, I mean, I am the guy that in Europe put the automated shuttles in 2012 on the street. So, I mean, this is not something I'm not capable or not interested or not fond of doing. Just, I don't believe that automation needs to be done for itself. Automation really needs to be employed where it is needed, which is, of course, repositioning empty vehicles or driving people which have some kind of limitations.
You know, it's I applaud you. 13 years ago, you were doing this in City Mobile, and you know, and I think that's where I first met you, and really appreciated that. And we've decided to go down the driverless mode simply because I happen, you know, in my own personal belief, think that we may be able to have access in some places, in just some places, where driverless vehicles that are affordable, that can do the empty vehicle repositioning. But here I'm looking at for the places that we can do it, where there exists sufficient demand, where it can deliver really some quality community values and community value. And that's what we're looking at here. And it's a very similar plight of what you're looking for as a demand, as a place to do this, to get the whole thing started. Then once we're started, then it will be much easier to go up the growth curve, the deployment curve, on that, and to try to do it without the overhead of the public subsidy. Because, you know, as I don't know what it's like in Italy, but my conclusion of public subsidy and transportation in the U.S. is for every dollar you get, it costs you two. It's not a very good thing to be. Okay. And you said we have some freedom. Boy, we want some freedom because, of course, if you do it for them, then you don't have any freedom. And who knows what overlay and so on, supposed protection that you need to provide. It's not that we're loose cannons on ships here, but my goodness, we think that there are opportunities out there, little niche opportunities to get started. Getting started it's always small, so you only need a niche. And then the question is how do you scale a niche? But let's at least start and create the niches.
But you know, the case of Florence is for me is very emblematic because of the nearly 1 million inhabitants of the metropolitan city of Florence. Only 300,000 live in the municipality of Florence, in the part which is densely inhabited and with very effective public transport. The other
Right.
the other 600,000 almost have no choice than to drive, and they must drive their car to some place where they need to park the car and then ride the public transport service, because we don't allow them to drive into the city center. The city center is too beautiful, too narrow, too unique, to everything to actually have 1 million cars driving there. Okay, so the point is that we have filled the metropolitan city of parking lots to park the car and then to ride a train or a tramway to the city center. And this is actually, it means that there is a difference in quality of life. So there are plenty of places where you can actually do this last mile service and getting each time a few thousands of people. But if you get few thousands of people here and few thousands of people there, you can easily get to 300, 400,000 customers. And I mean, our goal is to serve 55 regular customers with one vehicle. This means that if we have to serve 550,000 customers, it means that we need 10,000 vehicles.
Yeah, we're sort of in the same rule of thumb associated with that, the 55, 50, 40. You'd really like to be there because that's the productivity of the vehicle and so on. So that in the end, the cost of the vehicle per ride is really ends up being small. You can only reach that if you do ride sharing. And sort of, in some sense, the advantage we have here in the United States is our million population cities. Guess what? Their public transit system, they don't have any. Whoops, or yipes. Because the only good one is basically in New York metropolitan area, New Jersey transit, whatever. I mean, we serve half of the public transit riders in the New York metropolitan area in the whole country. We serve as many in that area as the rest of the country does. And so, the opportunities here, the places, the Brownsville, Texas places where some of this could really provide some good mobility to people who really need a ride, and for people who already have sort of a good ride could have even a better ride, is I think just enormous.
Yeah, and in that case, as distances are bigger and opportunity to have ride sharing smaller, then you must have automation to help you reposition vehicles. Otherwise, you will not be productive. But in our cases, our main point is that we are actually complementary to public transport. We really want people to use main public transport, and we are the last and the first mile to serve a much wider portion of the land, of the territory, by enlarging the opportunities out of public transport, which after all is just a number of lines.
Yeah, and we're the same way here in New Jersey because we look at New Jersey Transit's rail operation on the Northeast Corridor as being, well, essentially the best commuter rail operation in the nation. I don't know, Connecticut might argue, but whatever. And in our simulations, and again, they are simulations, that this kind of accessibility, last mile, first mile that Adriano has described, done in New Jersey, we can increase the ridership in New Jersey Transit Rail by 50%. And because people now don't use it because of parking and whatever difficulties. You got to park at the station, whatever, and then when you get to the other end, you can't get to wherever you're going. But now, if you have these systems at both of the station, boom, ride, boom, and then get home. One of the things we discussed when we were together, how important the decision to take a mode on to someplace is not to get there, it's to make sure you can get home. I mean, really, Hansel and Gretel put the breadcrumbs out there so that they could get home from grandma's house. Okay, I mean, and this is what is in people's minds when they decide, oh, damn it, I'm just going to drive. I'm going to pay for the parking. Why? Because the car is going to be there to get me home. It got me there. Big deal.
Basically, the counterflow demand is as important or even more
Absolutely
important than the forward leg. The counterflow is what really makes park and ride not feasible.
Yeah.
Because if you take a train from Manhattan to New Jersey, then you don't have a car available at any parking lot in New Jersey. Then you have to find another way. In fact, when I come from Manhattan to Princeton, I normally prefer to take the bus, which is very slow, very inconvenient, It makes an incredible number of detours, but that's just one point, which is very good. It drops me just in front of the Nassau Inn. Okay, which is perfect.
And the darn train, they moved it away from the Nassau Inn, and in 2010, I fought that. Another thing I lost. Have I won anything? I mean, geez, how many things do I have to lose? I'm going to win this one, though. Hey, Adriano, we're going to win this one together.
Absolutely, absolutely. We want to win. We will win.
This has been such a pleasure. Alan, you want to touch on a couple of other quick headlines?
Sure, yeah.
From the New York Times today, there's a guest essay from a neurosurgeon, Jonathan Slotkin, who is Chief Medical Officer for Strategy and Growth at Geisinger. That's a Pennsylvania-based health provider. The headline of the essay reads, "Don't fear self-driving cars, they save lives."
Yeah, I tell us something we didn't know. I mean, hey, they will only be permitted on the roads if they do. Okay, or at least they break even. All right. Otherwise, nobody's going to approve them. All right. But at least I guess as Waymo, I think, is demonstrating with their data, as Tesla has put out that nobody wants to believe their data, but it put out. I mean, these things drive better than some of us. I mean, it's amazing. And whether or not they do today, the rate of change of this thing is such, you don't want to extrapolate because it could be doing this, is such that they're going to, I mean, if I stop at a stop sign at a T intersection and have to turn left, I have to look this way and I have to look that way. And then I have to look this way and then I have to, I mean, how many cognitive cycles does it take for me to figure out whether or not I can do it? These things are looking both ways simultaneously, 30 times a second. My cognitive cycles aren't 30 times a second. And how many cognitive cycles does it take for me to, there's nobody coming, I'll go. And as I'm looking here, the guy in front of me started to go, and I didn't see that he stopped, and then I run in the back. Oh my goodness, these things are looking 360 simultaneously. Now, unless, they wrote the code really poorly, they should be able to determine. We don't even have a chance because we don't have the data rate. We don't have the information rate.
I can say that knowing you for some times, you go much faster than 30 cognitive cycles per second. But beside the joke, no, it's clear that automation can save life. The only problem is that automation itself cannot do everything. So there is an infrastructural part, which is also very important. Today, Waymo and the others choose very carefully where to drive and where not to drive, while we, as not very much prepared and sometimes not too wise, try to drive everywhere at whatever speed we feel is right in that specific moment. This is the cause of most of the accidents. So if automated driving will actually help us to improve our road infrastructures, this will be definitely a breakthrough in terms of road safety. If not, I'm afraid that we will start a lot of litigations because of the people who were killed in accident caused by automated driving vehicles. And this, I don't want to say it's the end of automated driving, but it will really create problems to the company. And yeah. I mean, I've been doing automated driving for more than 25 years now. So I know what I'm talking about. it's impossible to have the automated vehicle that can go anywhere at any time, no matter which is the difficulty of the infrastructure. It doesn't exist. So we need to be very careful in saying that automation is the solution to everything. Automation is a very important help to finding a good solution, which include also that we review some of the design of our road infrastructures.
Well, not to one up yet, Adriano, but I've been doing automation for more than 50 years. Whew. And although some of it was in guideways, okay, but you're absolutely right. First of all, nothing is for everything. And to think that, in fact, we're going to develop something that automated that the do drive can go everywhere is like silly. The whole discussion of level system, level 5. Are you joking? Everywhere? Come on, cut it out. Nothing is everywhere. We do make bad decisions, and that these systems might not make. I was driving up the New Jersey Turnpike when Sandy was approaching New Jersey. Sandy was the hurricane. And I said, that sucker is not turning left. I'm just going to keep going. That sucker turned left, and it almost cost me. Okay. How stupid of me. Okay. That was my decision. And in fact, if one looks at the crashes out there, they're largely people misbehaving. They're doing this. They're doing this. They got their phones out. They're picking them up off the floor. They're sleeping. They're whatever. They think they're the owners of the infrastructure and can run up anybody's and go as fast as they want. It is all this misbehavior. And of course, it sort of suggests that these automated vehicles are going to be able to avoid all the misbehaviors by others. It's just like silly, okay? So this whole business about it's got to be perfect. Well, if it really has to be perfect, then I'm going to quit doing this right now and go enjoy the rest of my life, whatever the hell I have left, because perfection on this is just not achievable, folks. Sorry, we're all out here trying to do the best we can to try to provide a little bit more value than we are going to institute in costs, so that people are happier campers and we have a better community out there. And if that's not good enough for you, then, get somebody else to do stuff. I quit. How's that? Anyway, Adriano, it is so great. I think we had one more, Fred, that you wanted to mention. I should comment on the New York Times. I think it's great. Sure, there are all sorts of values associated with this. But the mobility opportunity that it gives for people to improve their lives who right now really need a ride and don't have a good way to do it and don't have an affordable way to do it, where mass transit works and is a high quality ride for you, keep doing it, please. It's not going to get cheaper than that. Problem is that those things are so few and far between that few people get the opportunity to do that. What about the rest, or some of the rest of them? And that's what Adriano and I are trying to provide some value to.
Right. Well, to sum up that story, the doctor said a lot of people see this as a tech story, but he views it as a public health breakthrough.
Yeah, so, it's not a tech story. This is a value to people story, and that's another value to people. Okay.
The other headline we were going to mention was from the Minnesota Star Tribune, I think. Self-driving cars have been in Grand Rapids since 2022, it says. And I think they're talking about a company we're familiar with.
Yeah, May Mobility. And sure, they've been there. They do have vehicles that are driverless, but they do have an attendant on board, which I don't know if it's even mentioned in the story, and that's fine to have an attendant on board. They just have decided that the risk reward of pulling the attendant isn't there yet. I guess that's May Mobility's call, and I'm not even sure whether or not Minnesota regulations allow you to do that. I mean, we face the same challenge here in New Jersey. There are two things. One, technology has to be good enough. which I'm still not sure yet, but getting closer. And then the other one is that, in fact, I won't have to go to jail, at least go to jail for a long time, if I do it. And so they're either we test it in the courts, or we get some regulations that say, hey, yeah, it's okay to do it. Take advantage of it. Look, society, this is a value proposition. Here, do it. Wouldn't cost the legislature anything to do that. Just take away the constraints.
Excellent. Well, Adriano, we want to thank you for spending time with us. Congratulate you on the
Thank you.
accomplishments.
It's been a real pleasure, and it always is with the both of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And say hello to your students for me, and we'll see you soon, okay?
See you soon.
Well, Alan, you've got to get back to grading exams for your students.
No, I don't want to do that. I hate grade up. Why can't we be like Brown? Well, no, I shouldn't.
You can find us at smartdrivingcar.com, and my tech reports are at techstination.com. Thank you for watching or listening, and please stay safe.